And joining us now, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. He sits on 4 key Senate committees: the Budget, Armed Services, Foreign Relations, and Health Committee. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. I want to remind folks what the president just threatened days after this federal shutdown began about layoffs. Let's hear from him, and I'll get your comments on the other side. Okay, so the president, we don't have the sound, but essentially the president is threatening deeper cuts, threatening to make some of these furloughs permanent. You've said Republicans are scared to do anything without the president's blessing, but it appears that his blessing is for this to continue, for the cuts to continue. He doesn't want this to stop. So is there a point at which your party feels pressure to come to the table to stop the bleeding?
Ariel, the president's going about it the wrong way. He's stiffening our spine. Here would be the way he should pressure us. When government reopens, there will be no more firing. There will be no more cancellation of economic development projects. There will be no more clawback of public health monies to Virginia. He started punishing the federal workforce and punishing my Commonwealth and hurting economic development projects his first day in office. He said that there's going to be more pain. It's not an empty threat. We believe him, but he's going to do it anyway. If he wanted to pressure folks to find a path forward, he would say all of that will stop, and we will instead find a solution on this health care debacle that they created with the reconciliation bill. So he is applying pressure that is stiffening the spines of Democrats. And I live in the state with the second most federal workers, next after California. Per capita, we have the most. I've been traveling around every weekend. The Senate is in session while the House has been home for 4 weeks now. But on weekends, I travel around Virginia, and my workers are telling me over and over again, the bullying has got to stop, and to stop it, you have to stand up to the bully. We have a president who won't even engage. He hasn't even been willing to engage with congressional leaderships other than the one meeting on September 29th, which, as you know, as soon as it was over, he started to tweet out doctored pictures of Democratic leaders in sombreros and speaking with artificial voices. He's treating this like it's a joke. He had a meeting in the Oval Office yesterday to give $20 billion to the Argentinian president and promised more if the Argentine elections go the way he wants them to. He won't even engage with congressional leadership to open government and stop health care costs from spiking.
Senator, as you heard Jake's reporting, and you're well aware, our troops are now getting paid today. It's a rare move by Trump that you have actually supported, but those paychecks averaged about $7.4 billion each pay cycle last year, meaning one cycle will nearly exhaust all of that $8 billion that the president reallocated. What happens if this continues to drag on for another 2 weeks?
Well, first, there's no reason for it to drag on. If the president would engage with congressional leaders, get them in the office, make the House guys come back, we could solve this in a day. We could solve it in a day. There are additional monies that were put to the Pentagon in the reconciliation bill that were not designated that could be used for military pay. And yes, I do support the president doing this because Speaker Johnson said, I won't bring the House back to pass a military pay bill. He refuses to bring him back to pass a military pay bill, probably because he's afraid of the Epstein files vote that's going to happen when they come back. So I'm glad the president found undesignated money within the defense budget that he could use for this purpose. I think there is more there in the reconciliation funds that were voted on in late June.
Is there any movement towards giving any of these federal workers who weren't covered by that military provision some kind of relief here, some kind of buffer as their bills start piling up?
Well, there's a couple of things. Most of the federal credit unions actually have programs where they will advance federal employees because knowing that I got the bill passed in 2019 that President Trump signed to guarantee everybody back pay. Before that shutdown, if there was a shutdown, you had to fight about back pay later, and nobody was guaranteed back pay. Now that people are guaranteed back pay, the federal employee credit unions tend to offer to their members or those who do business with them, we will advance to you because we know you're going to get paid when the government opens. Again, we could open this government and get the funding done in 36 hours if the president would just engage rather than spending time with the Argentine president and cutting a deal with the Qataris about an Air Force base in Montana. America first, folks. Let's get government open and bring people's health care costs down.
So let's take us overseas for a moment. Let's move to the Caribbean. You've made headlines saying that there is a significant likelihood at least one Venezuelan boat was bombed by mistake. What evidence, sir, are you looking at there? And has the Armed Services Committee been given any indication how the White House is picking these boats in these strikes?
Here's what we know that I can tell you, because I can't tell you what I know from classified settings. It is public knowledge that when the Coast Guard interdicts ships suspected of drug running, 1 in 4 times there aren't drugs on the ships. So we have a track record of we interdict, but we're not always right. That is public record. We also had a hearing where I asked for facts to suggest that there were narcotics on all the boats that have been bombed thus far. I did not get answers that satisfied me on that question. And then the final thing that it should trouble everyone, the president has said, and his team has said, that he has created a secret list of organizations and affiliates. We have no idea how many. And he can make the decision about whether, when, and where to bomb them. He has not released that list to Congress, much less to the American public. We should not be allowing a president to create a secret enemies list and make the unilateral decision about whether to kill people without sharing that information, at least with the armed services and intel committees. I sit on armed services. And so this is very troubling. That's why Senator Schiff and I tried to get our Republican colleagues to agree we shouldn't be at war of this kind without a vote of Congress. We got 2 Republican senators, Paul and Murkowski, to vote with us, but we're continuing to monitor what's happening in the Caribbean, and we will likely renew that challenge if the president continues to do this.
What can the Armed Services Committee do about this?
Well, the Armed Services Committee, we're currently in a negotiation between the Senate and the House about the Armed Services Bill, the Defense Authorizing Act, which we passed in the Senate last week. And so we're in a kind of a conference where we are talking about this. There's a number of things we could do. I mean, even just the question of why are we doing this then interdicting? The Coast Guard just did a huge announcement yesterday of a massive interdiction of drugs in the Pacific. We can still interdict and do it successfully. And Ariel, what your viewers should know is if you bomb a boat and sink it to the bottom of the sea versus interdict, when you interdict, you get evidence. You seize the drugs and you get the individuals on that boat, and then you put pressure on them to give up their superiors, and you can actually build cases against the kingpins when you interdict. When you sink it to the bottom of the sea, you not only destroy the evidence, destroy the ability to know even if drugs were on the boat, you also don't get the ability to build a case against the kingpins. The administration won't even give us answers to the question of why strike rather than interdict.
Senator Tim Kaine, thank you again for your time today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.